G'day, 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 wherever you are, from the creation guy, John Mackay, who's down under tonight. And Joe can't be seen up over because he's been busy all week with a teaching session at his own church. So pray for him, bless him, and thank you, Joe. Enjoy your time off tonight. Well, we have some wonderful things tonight. I'm reminded of a scripture out of Psalm 24, where nearly 3,000 years ago, King David said, "The earth is the Lord's and everything that's in it, all the fullness thereof." By the way, if you didn't know your name was in the Bible, you are, because it goes on to talk about all the people that are in it. But tonight, we're not going to be talking too much about people, just a little bit, but we're going to be talking about some of the fabulous things. Look at the latest donation to our museum. Silversaurus, I call it. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that. Eat your heart out, Craig Hawkins down in Tasmania, because they've been filming all week down in the Tasmanian Discovery Centre, and Diane is down there. She had a very urgent sort of a Dragonfly flight down there to deliver a special fossil, airmail supplied. So listen, Craig, you take it over the first couple of videos here, and what we're basically doing tonight, because you and I have talked a lot about it, we'll play a couple of videos with your commentary, then we'll throw it up to questions, and I believe we've got a total of 7 small clips tonight. That correct, Craig?
That's correct. Yes. So we're making use of Diane while she's down here to give us a little bit more detail with her knowledge on some of the displays that we've been collecting over the last little while. So yeah, we're going to show some of those, John.
All right, so enjoy parts of the fullness of God's creation that's stored in Creation Discovery Centre, Tasmania. Take it away, Craig.
Okay, so the first video, Steve will load up for us. Thanks, Steve, for taking this on tonight, and we'll watch the first one now. Well, it's great to have Diane Eager down from Canberra to the Creation Discovery Centre here in Beauty Point, Tasmania, and we're just going to go through a few of our new exhibits that we want to present here at the museum and use Diane's knowledge to help us explain a little bit more about them. So great to have you, Diane.
Oh, it's lovely to be here. Great
Wonderful.
place.
Well, first up, we've got this great example. A lot of our regular watchers would be familiar with this. Can you tell us a little bit about this one here?
Yes, this is the shell of a nautilus. This is just its shell. A little sea creature lives in here, and I have actually seen a living one in an aquarium swimming around. And the really interesting thing is that even though this is quite a hard-shelled creature, it can float up and down in the water. It was quite fascinating to actually watch one. It was in an aquarium, it wasn't out at the sea.
Wow. So they're a great animal, and I think that they're not that simple, are they? People like to think that this is a simpler sort of animal that's at the bottom of the evolutionary tree, but we've been fortunate to be given one of these that's been cut in half by one of our supporters. So would you like to show everyone that one?
Yes, this is a nautilus shell which has been split down the centre so that you can see the internal structure. Now, what a beautiful piece of design this is, and artists actually use this as a lovely example of design of the golden ratio, but it's also a really good example of biological design because
you can point to it.
Yes, you can see here there's a little series of what look like little pipes, and in fact when the sea creature is in this and it's alive, there is actually a living structure that goes through there, and that's how it maintains its buoyancy. Now, the reason it has all of these little chambers are that the creature grows, and each time it grows a little bit more, it will add another one of these chambers. The shell will grow and it will actually secrete this dividing wall here, but it doesn't close it off completely. There is actually a little tube that goes all the way through here, so that as it grows, it has a means of adding or subtracting water from these chambers, because remember, it lives under the sea, so when it actually secretes the little wall here, right, that will have water in it, and it can extract some of that water and just leave a gas bubble, as it were, and that's what it uses for its buoyancy. It floats up and down in the water column. unlike most shell creatures which actually live on the bottom of the sea. So a fascinating piece of design, that, because that won't work until that structure is there, that tube-like structure, and inside that is a really interesting way of absorbing water by using what's called an electrochemical gradient. In other words, it moves charged ions, or what we think of as blood salts, so that it can absorb some of that water into its own body and leave a chamber with a gas bubble in it and use that for buoyancy. It's a brilliant piece of design.
And what would happen, Diane, if they didn't have this?
Well, they'd never get off the bottom of the sea. They wouldn't be able to float. They wouldn't be able to use that buoyancy. They don't float right up to the top. They actually live in the water column, but they can float, quite a long way from the sea bottom. Really clever little animal, this. But of course it wouldn't work until all of those features were there all together right from the start.
Now, the Nautilus is also a great example of a creature that hasn't really changed, has it? We've got another great little fossil here that we'd like to show everyone. Maybe you could show them that.
Yes, so here we have a fossil Nautilus, and you can see it has the same shape and the same structure as the living one, or the shell of the living one there. So nothing has changed since this fossil was buried compared to the shell of the living one that we have, which is a matter of many millions of years, I believe.
This particular one was labelled as being from the Cretaceous when we purchased it.
All right, so we're talking about 100 million years around about. Yes. All right, a very long time for something to not have changed, but we don't believe in the 100 million years. But the real point is, if we turn it around, we can see that internal structure is still there as well. So nothing has changed in the Nautilus. As far as we know, the oldest ones are exactly the same as the ones that are still alive and floating around in the water column today. So nothing has changed. They have reproduced after their kind, which of course is what we are told in the scriptures, that things were created, fully formed in separate kinds, and then they have reproduced after their kind ever since.
Wonderful. Now, one thing that I've noticed with this one is it doesn't seem to have the big part of the shell coming out here. What do you think might have happened to that?
I suspect it's probably been cracked during the process of extracting it out of the rock, because it is fairly fragile, it's quite thin, and it's probably been cracked while this was taken out of the rock. But nevertheless, you can see all the internal structure, you can see the chambers, and you can see a line here where that sort of pipeline structure that the creature uses to absorb the water from those chambers to leave the little gas bubble so that it can float.
So it's a wonderful example of a created creature, a designed creature, and one that hasn't changed no matter how long you want to say it's been alive on this planet. Wonderful. So I hope you enjoyed that, and our viewers that are watching there live, if you've got any questions or comments you'd like to put in the comments section, please do so, and we'll respond to them as we show a few more of these videos as the nights progress. But Diane did mention the golden ratio there, and I see Doki Doki has made mention of that, apparently aware of that. That's great, Doki Doki. Maybe some of our other viewers don't really understand what the golden ratio is, and it makes me think maybe it would be a good show to do at some point as well, Diane.
Yes, because there are lots of examples in nature. What you get with the natural spirals, so you see it in flower petals, in leaf patterns, how the leaves are arranged around a plant stem, and in other shells as well. So it's a natural phenomenon that we see in lots of living things as they grow in that spiral pattern. And it's also very beautiful, so it's a lovely example of design as well. And artists do use it because it is particularly aesthetically pleasing, but it's also very functional.
So Michelangelo, I think, used the golden ratio on a lot of his drawings, but as a seahorse farmer, we've we've got it in the tail of a seahorse as well, as it curls
Mm.
up. The golden ratio is there.
Yeah.
And one of the amazing things I think with it all is how it reflects the triune nature of God in right through creation. So you got any comments on that you'd like to add, John?
No, it's just that I've agree with what you've said. The interesting thing, of course, is it's not only beautiful, it's structurally incredibly strong, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
when you look at the Nautilus building its shell, you can't push at any time on anywhere and make it just bust up easily unless you've got a geologic hammer and you happen to miss the rock and you hit the shell. That usually does dislocate it a bit, but it is incredibly strong at the same time as it is incredibly light. And from the first one I ever found of those out west outside of Aramac in central Queensland, they're just beautifully preserved in the rocks. And you've just got to say, wow, God, that looks beautiful. And I know it hasn't changed because they still live off the coast of Queensland. And occasionally when they get sick, they will float up to the top, which is dangerous to them because they can't get rid of the gas that's inside them. So just like you have gas sometimes, they do as well, but it's a lot more dangerous for them than it is for you. But they do use it like, yeah, that's right. So yes. Okay, Craig, you've got another couple of videos, I believe, to show us, or one now anyway.
Yeah, just one other comment on the golden ratio. When we were setting up our museum, my wife Rochelle and our colleague Deanne Foley went up to the Australian Museum in Sydney to look at setting up museums and a whole bunch of information. And they showed how they were doing animations on dinosaurs walking, and they were using the golden ratio for the length of step of the dinosaur and the way they operated. So just it's everywhere in nature. Okay, so yes, Steve, we might get on to the second one now and have a look at that one. Thanks.
Here with Diane Eager at the Creation Discovery Centre in Tassie, and we've got a shipment just come in from the United States that's really exciting to have. We've been waiting on it for a while now, and it's of some skulls. Now, it seems like an odd thing to get in, but we've got some skulls of different animals, and there's some things we want to present with it. And here's our first one. It's a pretty vicious looking animal, and Diane, you know what that one is, don't you?
Yes, I do. I wouldn't like to get my finger caught in that animal's mouth. But normally that's not a problem because it doesn't go around looking for fingers to bite off. In fact, this is a fruit bat, so it goes around viciously attacking things like bananas.
Yeah, or mangoes. I used to get them in mango trees in North Queensland where I live. Yeah, so that's a vicious one. Well, we've got a few more than that. That's a great one. Here's another one, and again, it's got some. I'll get a little bit closer to the camera so you can have a good look at it. It's got some great fangs there. Do you know about this one?
Yes, this is a gibbon, I think. Yes, it's and this is another creature. When you saw its fangs, you think, oh my goodness me, that must be a fearsome creature. But it lives in a tree and eats tree things. It eats leaves and fruit and other vegetable matter.
Okay, so that's another great one with some very severe fangs. You wouldn't want to be bitten by that one, that's for sure. This one here, again, has some incredible tusks on it, and these are actual copies of real skulls of real creatures. Do you know what this one is?
Is that a water deer? Or
Yes, it is.
Yes, yes.
Well done.
That's right. Now again, it's got teeth that look like they could sort of take a bite of you and spit out the bits, but these are actually very good for eating plant foods as much as they are for eating animal foods. After all, you do have to slice through fruit or through tubers or even plant stems and things like that. So just having big fierce teeth does not make an animal a fearsome predator. It just tells you how it's equipped to eat.
So a saber-toothed tiger may well have eaten other things as well as meat.
Yes, and in fact we've written about that in our fact file. But
okay, check it out on the fact file. What's the website for that?
Well, Creation Fact File. Easy enough to remember. And what it is, it's an archive of all of our science reports that we send out in our newsletter. And you don't need to know when the newsletter was sent out. You just need to use normal keyword search because they are filed just one by one.
Great. Well, we do have a couple more. Let's have a look at this one here. Here's another one with some decent fangs.
We seem to be getting bigger and fiercer, don't we?
Yes.
Yes.
What's this one?
And I'm not sure about this one.
You're not sure about this one? Well, I'll tell you. This one's a Chacma baboon.
Ah, right, yes. So another primate like the gibbon, yes. And again, primates are vegetarian.
So they might eat a small percentage of mammals, small mammals or lizards or things,
yes.
but primarily their diet seems to be vegetarian.
Yes, yes. Well,
great. Okay. Well, we've got one more to show here as well.
Oh, that's the biggest and fiercest of the lot if you were just looking at its teeth.
And I know you know what this one is.
Yes. Yeah, this is a panda. It's the classic black and white panda of Chinese fame. And there is also another panda that's related to that. It's red panda, which is a bit smaller and lives in a tree, but it has teeth just like this as well. Now, both the black and white panda and the red panda eat fruit and leaves. The black and white panda, of course, is famous for eating bamboo, and I've actually seen one do that. It was in a zoo at Adelaide Zoo, and we were there in the morning just as they were putting out the panda food, which was great big bundles of bamboo. And the panda just sat there and picked up these bamboo stalks, shoved them in its mouth, and it was like watching someone put your prunings through a garden mulcher.
Wow. Yeah.
Really crunched through them. So it loves its bamboo. And the red panda is interesting. It's a smaller creature and it lives in a tree. And so it eats leaves and flowers and fruit and shoots. And I went for a tour at another zoo, and the guide was pointing out this beautiful creature and said, now this is a really interesting creature. It's a vegetarian carnivore. And I thought, what? And so I asked him what he meant by that, because it seemed to be a contradiction in terms. And he said, oh, well, this is a creature that has teeth just like a dog, but it's all vegetarian. It just eats leaves and fruit and flowers and things like that. So big fierce teeth do not make an animal a vicious creature or a vicious carnivore at all.
And this has got some decent canines on it, that's for sure.
Yeah, it certainly has.
Wonderful. So the theme, Diane, that we're presenting with all of these skulls, what is it?
Well, an animal's teeth do not tell you what it eats, it tells you how it is equipped to eat things. And you do need sharp teeth to eat plant foods as much as you need to eat animal foods. You think of the knives that you have in your kitchen. You have sharp knives which you use to cut up fruit and vegetables. So animals with sharp teeth are well equipped to eat plant foods, and that's what they would have eaten right at the beginning when God said, I give you all the green plants to eat. And at that time, all of the animals were vegetarian, and all people were as well. But since then, the world has gone downhill, and a lot of animals have had to convert to being carnivores because they couldn't get enough nutrients from eating plant foods in the regions that they found themselves in. Yeah. But when God said that all animals were meant to be vegetarians in the first place, it's perfectly reasonable in terms of just looking at the science.
Yeah. One of the things I found amazing just recently to learn was that all of the alligators in alligator farms in Louisiana are fed from hatching to death. They're fed a soybean extract, a completely vegan diet.
Oh, really?
There you go.
Yes.
Okay, well that's great, and that's that display. Thanks so much, Diane.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, so that's one that we have been waiting on for a little while now to get through, and excited to at least show it for the first time here on Creation Conversations. You're the first people to watch it, and we hope to get that in a display somewhere in the museum very shortly. But one of the things I just would like to ask, if any of our viewers out there, our supporters, have got other examples that they think would be a good one to add to such displays, send them in, let us know, and we'll look into them. You were going to say something, John?
Yes, even our silver-plated saurus here has got sharp teeth, but the Bible reminds us that those sharp teeth in the beginning were not for killing or savagery. Diane, you might know that there's a rather famous book about pandas' teeth, and including a section called Eat Shoots and Leaves, which has always been a humorous way to look at it. But in reality, I too have seen the panda bear eat, and they're just like, passing a lawnmower over a bamboo thing, and the leaves just sort of shatter and end up in its mouth. So it really is a very vigorous vegetarian. And the interesting thing is, when you look at the teeth, such as the crocodile or this guy here, you look at the spaces, but mostly you're trained to look at the points. And I love to remind people that we have to take the whole of God's creation when we're asked questions about what it could be used for. It's got spaces, and my dog has also got sharp teeth, but he uses the spaces for picking tomatoes, for picking fruit, for picking grapes, because the little connector fits just between his teeth, and he pulls. So don't just look at the points, look at the spaces as well for the function of the original teeth. Now, we're going to have a small break now for anyone who's got any questions. And then, Diane, you're going to bring us our news report this week, correct?
Yes, we've got some headlines.
Okay. Steve, do we have anybody to say thank you to? And then we'll take any questions that might have come in.
No official thank yous. I would just say welcome to a number that are making comments. We've got they're showing your presence, but no questions, no particular thank yous. But thank you for those that are joining us. And if you've got questions, do put them in the chat. Yeah.
Okay, Diane, take over with our news headlines for Creation Research this week.
Yes, here are tonight's creation headlines, and we start in the sea. Sea turtles are known to be sensitive to the Earth's magnetic field, and they use it as a type of compass to navigate long distances. But it wasn't known if they could identify and memorize specific locations by their magnetic signature, sort of like Google Maps for marine creatures. But scientists have now tested turtles in a laboratory by surrounding them with magnets that simulated the magnetic signatures of real places, and then they gave the turtles food in one of the simulated places. And it turns out the turtles remembered the magnetic signature of the places with food. It seems turtles can use the Earth's magnetic field as a compass to indicate direction of travel, and they can also use it to mark spots on a magnetic map. Now, maps require a lot of stored information. Now, where could that have come from? It has to come from someone who is greater than the turtles and greater than the magnetic field. And now let's move on to the land for some soil engineering. Scientists have carried out a large-scale analysis of how ants and termites and earthworms improve soil. They found the activities of these creepy crawlies increased nutrients and aeration of soils, resulting in more microbes and more plant biomass in the soils. This soil engineering is a reminder that nothing in biology works in isolation. Food production requires complex, whole working ecosystems, and this is further confirmation of Genesis, which tells us that God completed the world with all living things fully functional and working together right from the beginning. Now, from creeping things to flying things. Scientists at Imperial College London have discovered the only multi-revolution flight maneuver in flying animals. It's dragonflies doing rapid loop-the-loops. They're so rapid it needed high-speed photography to see it. Dragonflies are renowned for their rapid aerodynamic flying, but the muscle contractions involved generate a lot of heat, and the insects are in danger of overheating. So to cool off, they plunge into the water and then fly vertically upwards. But then they're all wet, and that would hinder them from flying, so they flip themselves over and over again at a rate that is faster than a spin dryer. The researchers were able to use a synthetic dragonfly model to confirm that this Duncan spin maneuver was an effective way to cool off. Once again, intelligent scientists could only copy what the creator has already designed and built. And finally, the duck theory has been confirmed. In 2005, we wrote a report in our newsletter about a fossilized partial skeleton of a bird with the name Viga's iale, which was found in Viga Island near Antarctica. The scientists who studied it claimed it was a type of waterfowl, right? That's ducks and geese. But other scientists disputed this because it was dated as 70 million years old, which is too old for modern birds, according to evolution. We stood by the scientists who studied this on the basis of the duck theory. If something looks like a duck, waddles like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. The head of the fossil has now been found, and it confirms that this fossil is a type of waterfowl. This fossil bird no longer may be waddling or quacking, but there is enough of it left to confirm the duck theory. And that's it for creation headlines for this week.
Find out where those ducky dinosaur stuff is. It's on our website. Go look up Fact File, go look up Q&A, and you'll find lots of stuff there. But if you're interested in questions, for those of you who are here down under, tomorrow at 10:30 Queensland time, yes, Queensland is different than all the other states, I'll be on Vision Radio for the next hour. So that's Vision Radio in Queensland, 10:30 tomorrow. Ring in with your questions. We have some interesting stuff to show you. Thank you, Diane, for that reminder. But I see we have a question that Doki Doki's actually paid for tonight. Now, I'm no good with Sam and his cups of coffee or barking cats or anything like that, but it is a good question. It's related to the last one that you actually mentioned, Diane. Doki Doki wants to know how big of wings he'd need to enable him to fly. Now, I remember the guy who sort of put wings on and tried to fly to the sun, and that didn't work because all the wax melted. Diane, do you have an answer to this question? How big of wings would you need for a human being to be able to fly?
Oh, probably somewhere around about 10 feet or something, really huge and ungainly. And we just don't have the muscle power for it either, because
So
it's not just the wings.
You mean unless he was in a jumbo jet, it wouldn't matter the size of his wings?
Yes. Yeah,
Sorry
if you
about
really
that.
want to fly, get on an aeroplane.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Doki Doki. If you donated $50, we might be able to come closer to an answer. But in reality, human beings don't have the musculature nor the lung power. Because one of the things we pointed out over and over again is that when birds flap their wings, they breathe in when they're flapping down and they breathe in when they're flapping out. Their lung system is a one-way. Yours is in and out. And the faster you flap your wings, the faster you breathe in for sure, but the faster you breathe out until you collapse of unconsciousness sort of 3 meters above the ground and crash into the ground, and you never want to fly again. Sorry about that. God made man to walk and he made man to run, but only if we build an aeroplane can we actually fly. So thank you, Diane and Craig. You've got another clip now, I believe, Craig.
I was just going to say on the flying thing, John, maybe hang gliders are the closest idea that we would get to the size of wings that you'd need to at least stay airborne, soaring on thermals and so on. So that's pretty big, just even to do that. Yes, okay. Well, look, we've got another video that we can show now. Thanks, Steve.
Well, Diane, it's been a long time in the making, but we got you here finally.
No.
Okay, I don't know why it's repeating. Let me just see if I can skip to get it past that point.
I've got to start.
It may be there's an issue with the upload on this one, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Okay, no problems.
I
Maybe we
keep
go.
skipping. Yeah, I keep skipping back to 6 seconds. Sorry about that.
Yeah, okay, no worries. Well, let's we'll have to show everyone that one later.
We'll
So-
move to the next.
Let's go to the next one, Steve.
Here we are at one of our After Their Kind displays. We've shown a lot of these over time individually, but this is the overall display. And they've got their cards that we originally bought the fossils with, and showing the evolutionary timescales involved. This urchin's a great one. It says late Jurassic. Now that's the dinosaur period, and that urchin on the left-hand side there with the sort of open hole, that's a modern one. So as we go along, a lot of them shells, because that's a lot of what the fossil record is. We have a few other examples as well. Now, Diane, some of them vary a little bit. What can you tell us about variation and after their kind?
Well, you do get variation in kind because you've only got to look at the living world now. We have things which we know are the same species or the same genus. So in the fossil record, we will also get those. And so the small variations that you've got here don't disprove the Bible statement about after their kind. In fact, they reinforce that what we see in the living world with variation, you had in the fossil record. But they're still very, very clearly their own kind. And this is a wonderful example where we have living examples and fossil examples together, and you can see how similar they are. They haven't changed. So this is a great example of non-evolution. It's after their kind, just as the Bible says.
Now, Craig, I know we've missed one video, but at the same time, if folks want to come to your museum just outside of Launceston at Beauty Point, which I believe is named after a cow, not because the place was beautiful, but the cow was called Beauty, can you tell us what times people can get into your museum?
So at this time of the year, it's from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and that's through to the end of April. And then in the winter period, which is a lower tourism period, so we don't burn our volunteers out. Oh, that's Monday to Saturday, by the way, 6 days. And so in the quieter tourism period, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday for the same time period, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And we're on the wall.
Good. You even take schools through the museum?
Yes, it is beautiful. Sorry, what was the question?
You even take schools through the museum?
I will take anyone. Yeah, we'll take anyone. We'll even take you in, John. Yeah, no doubt about it. No, we take lots of school groups in. We've got a school group coming up shortly, and they love to come. We get high schoolers, we get primary schoolers, we even get some university students come through at times. So, yeah, everyone's welcome to. If you want a guided tour, ring us up in advance and we can organise that as well.
Now, Steve, you're looking frozen over there in England. You look after the museum in the UK. So tell us where it is and what people have to do to get to the Creation Discovery Centre in the UK.
Yeah, so I'm sat there right now, as you can see from some of the displays and dinosaurs in the background. We're in Oswestry, which is, it's not Wales, but it's almost Wales, and sometimes some people think it's Wales. But we're very close to the Welsh border, in Midlands to north of England. It's quite a central place in the whole of the UK. Yeah, Oswestry. So we're here and we're open for the public 2 days a week. We're open on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So the best thing to do is to come to Oswestry and park in the main central car park, which we have here, which is very reasonably priced, and you can come here. But I would just check, we have a Facebook page, If we're not able to open on one of our open days, we do try and put on there if something's come up and we're not open. So I'd check, just look for Creation Research UK or Creation Research Centre UK on Facebook. We post there if we're not open, but we're hoping to open Wednesdays and Saturdays, usually 9 to 4. We are only partially open at the moment in terms of a museum because we're working on our upstairs part of the building, and we are working hard on that to get that open by April or Easter time. If you're looking to see the full museum, come and join us then. We're hoping sort of the Easter week from the Easter Monday on to have some special events, special open days, and I'm hoping Diane is going to be around for that as well. I think, not sure if those plans are finalised yet, but we will be open to some degree up the top there, and we've got a lot more displays on After Their Kind has been shared from Australia. We've got lots of After Their Kind displays or living fossil displays. We've got lots of big dinosaur bones, lots of big dinosaur fossils, and evidence for the global flood to walk through as well. So, yeah, thank you for that, John.
Thank you, Steve. But I also noticed that we've got a question from New Zealand there about something club-like that I found. If you'd like to read it to everybody, please, Steve, while I turn around.
Sure. Sure, yeah. We got this question from Alan. John, you showed me a replica of a club where the original was found in coal. Would you be able to give us your thoughts on that, please?
I certainly will, because Diane and I have investigated this one thoroughly. If you want to see what the replica looks like, there's what was found. It's hard to fit into the screen. There we are. It looks just like a policeman's sort of club. The interesting thing is, though, Diane and I, we've investigated it a lot, haven't we, Diane?
Yes.
Did we find any Australian Aboriginal group that had such clubs?
No, we didn't. They do have throwing sticks of various kinds, but nothing like that.
Now, when we originally found it, I gave it to one of our builders' friends who's gone to be with the Lord since, and I said, make me a replica of it and make it out of the same sort of wood. Now, here's what he did originally. This is a wooden one, and it is unbelievably heavy. You've held this one up, haven't you, Diane?
Yes, for a wooden object, it's amazingly heavy.
In fact, he found that to match the fossil, we had to find the densest eucalyptus in Australia. Now, Craig, you might be able to name that one. I can't remember what he found out, but this is unbelievably heavy and unbelievably tough. And it came, I believe, from a Victorian site. But there we are. That's the wooden replica. And then we've done some for our museums and to ship around the place. This is a fiberglass cast, including all of the little holes that the worms in the sea had bored into it. So it was found in a coal seam under the water off the coast of Victoria. Now, the coal seam there is up to 40 million years old. That's a bit of, 40 million years according to the evolutionists. And Craig, you've just done a nice big cross-section of Bass Strait for your geology talks, haven't you?
Yes, we have, and we presented that at Sheffield last Saturday night.
And is there lots of coal seams in Bass Strait?
Oh, yes, there's lots there, and we even have oil rigs and so on extracting the oil that comes off the coal, and it's as deep as 3 kilometres or so.
So don't be surprised that this was jet black. What I found interesting is it was still incredibly heavy and recognisable, so that our builder could actually match the density, match the shape, and it was beautifully preserved. In fact, the really hard eucalyptus wood has got a real long shelf life, as is evidence. But what's interesting, Diane, we did a lot of research. We couldn't find it anywhere amongst Australian Aboriginal tools, clubs, or anything. Even though they had throwing sticks, which are brilliantly designed, they didn't have heavy hand clubs. Now, the closest we found was something that didn't come from Australia. Do you remember where we tracked these nearest wooden clubs down to?
No, I can't remember which ones they were. The Neanderthal. We found some Neanderthal ones in Europe.
That's right. That's the closest we found. So if you're looking at these, You could look at this as a political discovery, if you like, that would probably disappear if it went to a museum file. That's why this is a replica here. But the closest we found were wooden club-like things found in a cave on the floor in Germany, Neanderthal. Now, when you find discoveries like that, they have unbelievable political ramifications. The first one is the coal couldn't be 40 million years old. That's one. Now, that's one reason why creation research and Craig's talk on Saturday night doesn't meet with popularity from the secular world, because they have coal forming slowly over millions of years. If this thing was covered up slowly, it would have a lot more rot and erosion on it. And the second is that if the coal was there and there's a weapon in it, the weapon was made by a human being. It didn't happen by accident. You can tell that this thing here was made by Fred Dainty, because even though you can't see his name, you know that shapes like that don't happen by accident. So when we look at the evidence for creation, it's so obvious. As King David said, the earth is the Lord's and everything that's in it, including human beings who are made in the image of God, who make things. They create things that would not happen by themselves. So there you are, Alan. Hopefully that's a little bit extra to you and helpful. We're looking for more things. In fact, to be honest with you, I found quite a few things all around the globe. Some of them I've been naive enough to hand into a museum and ask them to identify it. I don't do that anymore because usually they won't come back. I should have learned that lesson at university, because one of our professors was rather notorious. He would ask you, "Oh, what's that you found?" You gave it to him, you never saw it again. It handed into his collection. So we are very, very careful about keeping our finds originally. The original, by the way, is stored in salt water under the same conditions that we found it in. We're very careful about the originals of all of these things we find. Thanks, Craig. Perhaps we can have the next one now.
Yeah, okay, thanks, John. Well, we've been very fortunate here at the Creation Discovery Centre in Tasmania to receive some funding from a Christian body to enhance the museum a little bit, and part of that's to have QR codes in the museum where people can click on and get a bit more information. So a couple of our very regular viewers would have seen this, but I thought it was worthwhile putting up the video. They might not have seen this actual video, I don't think they would have, but the sign they would have on the ages of the patriarchs. And so we'll play that now, because it does follow into then the next one, which is a very new sign that we've only just installed in the last week. So thanks.
The Bible's account of history is very different to the secular accounts that we're normally given. For a start, it says that Adam was created in the beginning. Jesus himself said that, don't you know, that God made them male and female in the beginning. And Adam lived for 900 years. And so did the patriarchs that we've got recorded up until the time of the flood. 900 odd years, except Enoch, which is a slightly different case. But why is that possible? How is that possible? Well, the Bible said that God made a very good world to start with. And it says that that world came crashing down at a certain point, and that point is the flood. What happened after that? Well, the ages declined. From Shem himself, 600 years, we're told, roughly he lived. Arphaxad in the 400s, his son. We get right down to Abraham and Jacob. And Jacob, he had his name changed to Israel. Israel, real place, real country, named after a real person. But how is it possible that people could have lived 900 years? We find that a problem because people don't live that long now. So what we're doing, it's a mindset, it's a way of thinking that we have, is that we look at ourselves, we live maybe, if we're lucky, up to about 100 years, and that's it. And so therefore no one could have ever have lived that long. But they could have if the world was once different. And the fossil record and other evidences actually point to the fact that the world once was very different. When we get giant dragonflies in the fossil record, that's showing you that the atmosphere was different. Many other giant creatures in the past, even dinosaurs, are evidence that the world was once quite different. So have a look at those displays in our museum as well. But what's going on here? Well, there's a decline. What happened at the flood that caused the decline? Well, I think there's a bit of a clue when you look at the story of Abram, who became Abraham. Abram married his half-sister Sarah, and there was no law against it. They had the same father, but there was no problem to God recorded in the Bible, and indeed all of the descendants of Noah's sons, Shem, Ham and Japheth, had to marry at least their cousins and have children from there, and yet they still lived long periods, over 400 years, in those initial periods. But something has declined. Now, when you get to Jacob, he went to Egypt, where his son was second in charge to Pharaoh. Now, Pharaoh asked Jacob, "How old are you?" And Jacob said, "Well, I've lived a tough life as a shepherd, and I'm not going to live as long as my forefathers did. I'm only 130 years old." Now, he ended up living to about 147. And we go, wow, that's amazing. What has happened that we don't live 147 now? Abraham marrying his half-sister Sarah, but a few hundred years later, Moses gives us the first laws from God of not marrying close relatives. So something is happening genetically. And by the evidence that we've got here, the flood broke the very good world that God originally made, and things that are causing defects in our genetics are starting to happen. Maybe increased ultraviolet light, maybe increased exposure to chemicals and oils and petroleums and other radioactive materials have caused problems. Now, by the time you get to King David, about 900 to 1000 BC, he only lived 70 years. And all of a sudden we think, well, that sounds more reasonable. I can appreciate that. But that's just part of the decline to roughly what God said, that he would enable us to live 70 years. And we live around about that on average, even to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of little bits of jumping around there, but yeah, so we've tried to shorten that down to as a short and sharp message as we can, but hopefully that came across clearly that there's a decline. The world was once different, and sadly that other video didn't work, because what it was a clip on our giant dragonfly fossil that Diane has brought down with her, and we were showing that was much bigger than the modern day dragonflies. I happened to have found a dragonfly right out the door of the Creation Discovery Centre, actually. It was one on the ground, dead one, and it was perfectly there for us to pick up and put next to the fossil and just show how much bigger the dragonflies are. Even the one we've got, it was 18 centimetre wingspan, but in the fossil record, they're up to 70 centimetres in wingspan. So the question being, you know, if people could live that long in a good world,
why couldn't other things?
Dragonflies, yes. Spiders, all the rest.
Craig, that chart you've got there, that's actually available in all of our museums in Oswestry, in Queensland, in Tasmania, correct?
Yes, yep. We like to share these things around.
We do. So continue to pray for our artists and those who go to all the trouble for printing these up so they can be put up in the museums. And part of the purpose of the Creation Discovery Centres is not that you have to travel to one big place to see all this. You can actually come and visit it when you have a holiday in Tasmania. Go and see the Discovery Centre there. When you come to Brisbane, come and see ours. Or when you go to Oswestry in the UK, go and see theirs too. And by the way, welcome to the person who just woke up in the USA at 5 a.m. and saw Craig's wonderful face on the screen. So what a way to wake up with a talk about hundreds of years of living. So thank you, Craig. What's the next one coming up?
Well, the next one is the new sign that we've just installed, which follows on from what we've just spoken about. So let's play that one now and let people see what we've been doing. Thanks, Steve.
So the chart that we've had in the museum for a while now goes through the line of Noah, through Shem and his descendants through Abraham and Jacob. But now we've added a new sign that helps people to investigate how the dispersal of peoples happened into all nations on earth today, even from the sons and the grandsons of Noah. So we go through the sons of Ham and the sons of Japheth, as well as the sons of Shem, and how all of the nations on earth today are now distributed because of that Babel dispersal. And this includes the Chinese, the Celts and the Gauls, the Slavic groups, the Baltic groups, the Brits even, and others through India and Melanesia and so on. So you can come and check this out at the Creation Discovery Centre in Tasmania at Beauty Point. Check it out, and we'll show you some footage of that close up as well.
Well, thank you, Craig. Just a reminder to people, we have another museum, which is not a Discovery Centre, but it's called Jurassic Ark. It's our oldest museum. And now that the heat wave is almost over here in Queensland, it has been unbelievably hot, by the way. We have not encouraged people to come to Jurassic Ark because it's outdoors. But Daryl tells me it's getting cooler by the week, and it's getting drier because we've had some incredible downpours. We have some new Grand Canyons formed rapidly after sort of 3 or 4 inches in an hour or two up there some days. But come to Jurassic Ark, and with all of these museums, make sure you check on the web or you ring up first and ask about coming. We'd encourage you to go to our English one at Oswestry, to our ones in Tasmania at Beauty Point, or to our Discovery Centre at Acacia Ridge, where we're going to see our new Silversaurus soon. And I'll tell you what, you will enjoy seeing all the displays, including the open-air ones at Jurassic Ark, where you do get to dig some fossils. Craig, I believe we've got one more to show before we have our final Q&A time.
Yeah, just one short one, John. It's, again, one of our existing displays that, again, some of our regular viewers have seen, but it does follow on well from the ones we've just looked at with the ages, and the world was once being very good. So it's about the Megalodon. Let's have a look at that now.
The Megalodon is powerful scientific evidence that the world was once very different. You see, Megalodons are actually great white sharks. How do we know that? Because you can identify sharks by their teeth. Other sharks have got different sorts of teeth, like the seven-gill shark has got lots of points on it. The tiger shark's got a bent tooth. The Port Jackson shark's got rounded teeth. And there's a whole array of different sorts of shark teeth. But a great white shark tooth is triangular, and it has serrations on the side. So when we find big triangular teeth and call them Megalodon teeth, we actually know that they're great white sharks. And this is evidence that great white sharks once grew bigger. Maybe they're still around, but no one's seen them this big. A Megalodon tooth is indicating that great white sharks could grow up to 18 metres. But here's something we know about great white sharks. They continue to grow as long as they live. So the really big ones, alive today about 6 metres, are the older ones. But when we find them with indications they were as big as 18 metres long, here's a question we can ask when we believe in biblical history. If God made a good world and we find 18 metre sharks in the fossil record, how old were they? And if people could live 900 years in biblical times, like Adam right through to Noah, then how big would a 900-year-old great white shark get? You see, megalodons and other giant creatures like this are actually evidence of biblical history.
What we see there.
Evidence of what, Craig? You need to finish that sentence off.
Evidence that the world was once better than it is now. Yeah, that was a good world, and it's deteriorated. Yeah, so some big size videos that Steve's had to download this morning and get them all organised, and might just be overloading the system a little bit, but that was pretty well the end of it there. So well done.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Steve, for having to put up with all that. But Steve, any thank yous before we have our final Q&A? Since Joe's away, I pray for him. But Steve, what's the final Q&A?
Look, a couple of thank yous. I'll just say that video that we're missing, I think because it was so big, it was slightly corrupted. I am trying to download it again. And it's currently at about 30%. So let's you can carry on with questions and chatting and seeing if it's ready to play again by the end of the video. But we'll see. The thank yous, Doki Doki, we want to thank you. John did mention the gift earlier. It wasn't $50, but it was $1.99. So a thumbs up there. We did have another one as well. So the 50 is, it might get to 50 by the end of the call, possibly. Another $1.99 US dollars. Thank you very much, Doki Doki. I don't believe there's any other questions.
Okay.
Let me just check.
Well, has anybody got any questions then on tonight? Again, a reminder, I will be on Vision Radio here in Australia tomorrow, Queensland time, 10:30. And our subject tomorrow is mutations make evolution possible, at least the artificial use of it, because scientists are boasting they can make evolution happen far faster than it's ever happened before. So we'll be pulling the intestines out of that nonsense tomorrow on Vision Radio. Great program coming up. So 10:30 Queensland time. Look forward to joining you on Vision Radio. And Craig and Diane, keep up the good work in Tasmania. So any other questions, Steve, that you can spot there?
What I was thinking about the vegetarian skulls with the sharp teeth. What's a hippo like?
It's got huge teeth.
Yeah, pretty vicious looking thing. So if anyone wants to donate us a hippo skull, then we'll gladly put them on display.
Yes, I believe it can even chew through a canoe, chew through the bottom of a boat, usually when it's after the fisherman that's aggravated it. So they sadly have ceased being totally vegetarian, although they are 99% vegetarian. They still
pigs are another one, aren't they? Well, pigs, they've got some fairly mean tusks and so.
Yeah, hippopotamus do kill people. In fact, it's quite a serious problem in Africa. But that's just due to their size and their bulk and the fact that if you annoy them, well, they'll hit you back. But they've got an awfully big head to hit you with.
That's certainly true. All right. Well, if there's no further questions, then pray for Joe as he does the week's program at the church, and pray for Steve as he continues to download things, and pray for the rest of us as we go back to ministry. Sam's been hiding in the background there, so thank you in the silence for you, Sam, who were standing there just in case. We're very grateful, and good night and God bless wherever you are.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.